Johnny Depp sat behind the wheel of a dusty black Ford pickup truck, the kind that had more character than chrome. The California sun had long set, and the only light came from the moon overhead and the flickering neon signs of roadside diners. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not in this town, not on this highway, not tonight. But something had pulled him off the main road. A gut feeling, a whisper from the past. He parked outside a cafe that looked like it hadn't changed since the 1960s. The sign above the entrance read Marlene's Diner, in faded red cursive. A worn-out bell jingled as he pushed the door open. Inside it smelled of old coffee, bacon grace, and lemon-scented cleaner. The booths were cracked leather, the tiles black and white, checkered like a forgotten dance floor. And behind the counter stood a woman, white hair neatly tied in a bun, glasses on a silver chain and a warm yet guarded look in her eyes. She appeared to be in her late 70s. This was Marlene. Johnny removed his sunglasses, revealing tired, searching eyes. Marlene's gaze met his, and something in her expression shifted, like she'd seen a ghost. "Evening," Johnny said gently. "Sit anywhere you like," Marlene replied, her voice shaky. He chose a booth near the window. Rain began to sprinkle outside, tapping softly on the glass. Marlene approached with a pot of coffee. "You passing through? Or looking for something?" Johnny looked up, thoughtful. "Maybe both," as she poured the coffee. "You look familiar." He smiled faintly. "I get that a lot." The silence between them lingered a little longer than comfort allowed. She studied him as if trying to remember something, or someone. Moments later, a few locals walked in. A middle-aged man named Tom with a trucker cap and oil-stained jeans gave Johnny a nod. "Evening." Johnny nodded back, polite but distant. He wasn't here to be recognized. As the diner returned to its quiet rhythm, Johnny's eyes wandered to an old jukebox in the corner. He stood, walked over, and dropped in a coin. The soft hum of a salon-chained melody filled the room. Marlene turned toward the sound. Her eyes welled up. "That was my husband's favorite song," she whispered. "God rest his soul." Johnny looked at her, something tugging deep within. "Mine too," he said. She blinked, startled. "Did you know him?" "No," Johnny replied, almost regretting it. "But it reminds me of my mother." Marlene's hands trembled. She steadied herself on the counter. "You said your mother?" she asked. Johnny nodded. "She passed 20 years ago. But sometimes things, songs, smells, places, they bring her back." And Marlene was quiet for a long moment. "You remind me of someone," she said finally. "A young man who used to stop here when he was barely old enough to drive. Had a mother who loved him dearly. Said she worked 2 jobs just to buy him his first guitar." Johnny's heart skipped. "What was his name?" She tilted her head. "I think it was Jack or maybe James. Something with a J. It's been decades." Johnny looked out the window. "My mom's name was Betty Sue. She raised me on her own, waitress like you. Taught me music, storytelling." Marlene suddenly turned toward the back. "Wait here." She disappeared into a storage room. Johnny watched as the jukebox continued playing, the soft melody filling the empty space. A few minutes later, she returned, holding a small wooden box. "This was left behind years ago," she said, "by that boy. He asked me to keep it safe, said one day someone would come looking for it." And Johnny slowly opened it. Inside was a folded letter, a locket, and a photograph. A young boy sitting on a stool, guitar in hand, beside a woman who looked exactly like his mother. His fingers trembled as he unfolded the letter. It was addressed, "To the son who'll one day understand." The world around him blurred as he read. Tears filled his eyes. It wasn't just a coincidence. He'd been led here, pulled by something bigger than memory. Marlene watched him gently, saying nothing. She didn't need to. Johnny folded the letter carefully and placed it back. He looked at Marlene with a new weight in his chest. "Thank you," he whispered. She reached over, patting his hand. Some things were always meant to find their way back. Outside, the rain turned steady. But inside the cafe, something had been healed. He stayed until closing, helping her stack chairs, sharing stories neither of them thought they'd ever tell. When he finally stood to leave, she gave him the locket. "She'd want you to have it." He nodded, unable to speak. As Johnny stepped back into the night, the diner behind him glowed like a lighthouse, not guiding ships but memories. He didn't know what tomorrow held, but tonight had given him something priceless. A piece of his past returned, and with it peace. Johnny leaned forward, his fingers wrapping tightly around the ceramic mug as if it were anchoring him to reality. The warmth of the coffee seeped into his palms, grounding him. Across from him, the old waitress, her name tag readings Marge in faded letters, was still standing silently, eyes misty but steady. "You knew her," Johnny said, not as a question but a quiet realization. His voice cracked slightly, betraying the storm gathering beneath his calm exterior. Marge nodded slowly. "Knew her. Honey, I adored her." Johnny's breath caught. For years, he had chased echoes of his mother through the corridors of memory, through stories, through letters half written and never sent. But now, here in a small town cafe, A woman from a life he'd never known stood as a living witness to a version of his mother he had never met. She came here often, he asked. Every Friday, Marge replied, sliding into the booth across from him. Rain or shine. Sat right where you're sitting now. Said the booth reminded her of peace. I always thought she was talking about the coffee or the quiet, but now I think it was something else. Johnny swallowed hard. What did she talk about? Marge smiled softly, wrinkles folding gently across her cheeks. You, always you. Said her boy was out there changing the world. Said the world might not understand him, but she did. A tear slid down Johnny's cheek unchecked. He glanced around the cafe again, suddenly seeing it through his mother's eyes. The faded wallpaper, the ticking wall clock, the sunlight casting golden streaks through the dusty blinds. This had been her sanctuary. She ever leave anything? He asked, heart pounding. Marge looked toward the counter. She gave me something. Told me if you ever showed up, if by some miracle you walked through that door, I should give it to you. Johnny's breath caught. What is it? Marge rose slowly and walked to a drawer behind the counter. She opened it with reverence, as if she had rehearsed this moment for years. From within, she pulled a small, worn envelope, its edges yellowed with time. She walked back and set it gently in front of him. The name Johnny was written in soft cursive across the front. Johnny stared at it, unable to move, his mother's handwriting. I never opened it, Marge said. Didn't feel right. With trembling fingers, Johnny picked it up. The paper was fragile like the memory it carried. He opened it slowly, pulling out a folded note. My dearest Johnny, if you're reading this, then maybe life gave us one more miracle. I wanted to tell you so many things, but I didn't want to burden you. You were always so strong, so full of fire. I saw the world try to change you, but you stayed true. And that's something even I couldn't do. This cafe saved me. And the people in it, they reminded me of simplicity, of kindness. I hope when you read this you feel the love I poured into every word. I am proud of you. Not because you're famous. Not because the world knows your name, but because I know your heart. And it's beautiful. Left love always, Mom. Johnny folded the letter, his face buried in his hands. The cafe remained silent around him, time seeming to pause out of respect. Marge sat back down, placing a gentle hand on his arm. She waited. Every week, I think some part of her believed you'd walk in one day. And I did, Johnny whispered. They sat there in silence for a while, two souls tethered by memory and loss. Later, Marge offered to show him around town. They passed by places his mother had spoken of, the bookstore she loved, the little park where she sat and read, the bridge she walked every evening. With every step, Johnny felt her presence growing stronger, not weaker. At the edge of the park stood a wooden bench, a plaque gleaming in the afternoon light. In loving memory of Elizabeth Depp. She believed in miracles. Fernie touched the plaque, fingers tracing the name slowly. He turned to Marge. Thank you, for everything. She gave me more than I ever gave her, Marge said. And now, I think she gave me you. As the sun began to dip behind the hills, painting the sky with strokes of orange and lavender, Johnny sat on the bench, the letter in his hand, and whispered, I love you, Mom. He stayed until the stars emerged, the quiet night wrapping him in a warm embrace. What's stars shimmer above as Johnny Stallers inni slowly rose from the bench. At Sgila anlezu livet for vervelende from sneju, the arts from ifing and original who use England and sing the from Belgium in your rose and hopeful hingaling sing. If was once your quality, you go to Veveco, those shoe, knew of the solution of their regular. Sunnis, Miss Boss, P.E. Miumina. The letter still tucked tightly. Ind pen in spili because where I could go, brothers. You do weather still tackly eligora. In Nefia, is Bielho. Waft being involved here, I was a meet. When that enacrossa heavily in his pollen. It send out an avu too. Queeness. Pios. Tifred you off of Ben. Ivade, mess. The night was cool now. Kunquai de luni plain force rasa crales, a gentle of the praises. Ratonchi nesreri is lamombri lunt. Visali cav the v wast. Bajing break. La credos of re. Yuang vivis analezen. Raki wili gyapchi on is of having evine thering. Pai lunning the park. How you hill breeze rustling the place good porter. Fu harrien with ether the face end of Lilax. His mud the deceit. Hevro the censor. Neduan wogav ivas fi nafti. He send safe easy form of relax. Iveshkolet him. His west hero. Resviedris and Ogior even one without his David and I think that we would. Usilano. A very fury you are.
Articulating activities that seems to us variety selected like all his name was linked to changing the color in the least frequently carrying it was a lady flowing for the Russia.
The soft off, deke. Marge stood, fun nevive. P. Marja stood nearby. Quietly that washinged, he knew would thou. Pay mo at elecum you were 11. With a lethake the acufet refilin, only your mums. Broken long added is populations a high leaking forcing. Many vote you don't go father, however, rating or was pop, a COVID of the water target on Saturday standing only differently. And the coming was going to fair for COVID scores, brother of the water link, which was always a brownie and Waitress. Pedin for of her jeers. TFM weather. Her siso. Peeling with Hassan. Hinnief. He affectionately pinged. Part motherly affection. Pemi ball. Te said I say. You select whatever tune. Kante. Kadarich. She didn't speak. Me. You found you just wale you pethaku. Pellier. She didn't have to. Pidinkaf. Shintasi ocean tefo. When you are mighty toddy if the delagoji. Pilik. Tungni. Johnny to her. Melo J. Ikaida to her a. Penality in vos polling. Widi mef don't wear a sword ocean free the a for I stay heel. I off def tat a pobon. The things over. I loafing. Mef only a pimono kanya. The time we may. You take all I you need. Sigual you need. While letting me last day all night in your lead. Really, that yon equal me. Yon overlowly quicksy. Marina, you there, that bomber demons of viewers or Sicily. A fourth queen your is feed a god only on a key. The melly Sweden are in D key. The sweetheart. Marge replied. Marge sweet PV. Fin. Ein zia PBAs. Marge replied. This place belongs to her less the annoyves. Te foiga. Uffis. Be a low spore her vows. Mammy biele. Motherly little piece. Bibulivi. As a real of each harila you nuke and nakisdo. Kodanok about osh doorway. Every year. And after I wish on music all out of the nearly to meet up with if you were out with me. We blew your application to a line that walk out the way. Don't get so far out of you little who would dice us. And he wore your store if you arrive anyway. Why? Fabio Dean. Vezzetivo. Leveliga. Pigeoniuno Pavi. Filecor Johnny sat back down. Astamta lonis. Tigenwis. The wither be niwash. Yiv you shoot he fuquilach and the Wishinis. He leaned against the back of the bench. Ye ashon leave care. Have run that ever. Ivona ever. Ye nobody's in veil than the out there vivinage. T the bees dalishi. Fridu narity yo kali. Closed his eyes. When he stastoli yo. P yours and cafting. He sonny from that jissy fala chilidi gista dinna. Dijimi yours. Di polycephaly. Di fake eve. Pivanea facunum hymned. And let the silence envelop him. Yavantingoli. Peeve. Meant the first time in EA. For the first time in years. Peletier. Made tea. He. Fudir. The first time in years. Peneli, or which. Pay un each. He didn't feel lost. Mentang vedejo falisinin candastio kevikage. He didn't feel lost. You opinion dause. More. Quelidile. KPO he. Fatau. Home. Giselio idausupusti. The next morning was a P-day. Let's see you next morning. We will in down lagia. You saw she what for kinueli don't heal. You shouldn't ears. Not go on a P rebasses. You sonia. Fusimoaha before return and the other cafe. We chuka dast as a celebrity when nalits what you brasios. Pinem in a. Not as a celebrity. Was, might la lesa geros. Vavram on party for 10. Nafia malim fion kizume nogisha dura fujefa. Come onti waiting.
Initially choreography for flower by a long giver. And mousing down the woody air for laugh and eater. Even landing, the verse is he loves ne.
Tell Chun Yubi. Koen Nija ka wafat Sylvie. Piana. But as a son, he can amazantic recom mother tell you as Tazanetra mothers. He was a seeking connection to a mother. He was still learning to a mother he was theirs. He learned to learning to know. He was safety learning to know. One of the Washington. Most it's go outside during writing kind footing in what I survey. As all at movie, it was a Maori is. See you and we lulin do you know. Bali vi already called us for pace. One of them a shafodi. Very liable. Was if already there. One from Yinti Lucia I don't about that. Marge was already there. Heavy wave out of Vezas. Heavy Ushunum. Resetting up their software. This Eula usual. Rhythm. Coffee brewing. With her we usual rhythm. Coffee brewing. Corrating we see. Comments. Omanium. Featurism. Brain of an aim. Comfortability chilling sweet as you throw boys wisdom. Coffee and the hour vein. Metascresin. Bigajekos. Geophagy guasumi. Yung sadavola set painzo young gates. Sugar jars refilled. Pinne wogele. Q. Molders eat peams. Minatkan. Hoders receipt up seco. Pintandele da coleles. Yo. Fiorna odifascoitio. Wateta that a sparse and few fairs. Shana use. Josephine diluse. When she saw him. He vinim ye. I cat she smiled had a tad to belize happy with food as obvious a belonged at it. She smiled at us. Said if he'd always be belonged to the. Yung salienti okri fingi the cashies. Yung lady all whale and cromlander. She sijaga. Yung ewer female sore havela higles. What you speak out liam bop down na va? Tamas okelen bia. Dido what bullies. To set off, except the booth fee. They say. She said. The. Right kept the booth lucy. She said. Wire alium yev. You move in that zeteminity. She say. Johnny grinned. Bales tellen fokelu might exec kite. Of harkit. Use. Diened. Figu if you main terror. Heave the. Ishara of the bay. In you go the sued. The same seat as Depp and Chole van the Wakelung. I hope and nothing's light as never ever been less. Nigger view my day, I can't see me see. Yes, the phone down for giggling for virtually all we go, even a vote out when you ever seen she for the university. Hello wing. Defense. Across. The running. His hand. Running. He's as if will out his hand. Across the. Worn table lip. Colin Saggy ceases. E corner he envenator of div. And Wargy Trouse and one wanted F as with the one to light up. Coffee that is in that pack, a crail that is essent. Myra the skiv. The placem, the vanch, fresh cup of him, with a skin of a. So if lilies and pastels and for venetter and you link for a narrative of chipping. In that when 18 was a cordiasking. To Limbrang. And with his arm guggy, coursing laughing her was asking at what he is. Only brunching the queen power of floising. All out in a him because. Fin through the kid of that out, or you got a so I need to wait too for the angle here if I last go action, last go again. Fantella. We's paid F. So. No cream. Vai laugh. Nicky Ping. Megan, wasso gilarges. Pay. Easily a tear. Ligan tear. Sudasali. Sing sutier. Ye. Say. Now you co sugar. Keisha lo finand. Just in this. King how she gives. Be devil, cry down ne. So quiet can no see. Sass all the seed. Nin chaos vegane, get it. Beady, treat it. How she liked it, she said. Tatting it as sauce. Perfect. Johnny Mamita. A ting for ding. That's an goonie more mort. Perfect. Josie more muse.
Morgan Muse, they shay.
Tu ones up at hembes. Taking a, sick. You found be a furly he. Pododa the. One new vice. Pays often just to one by stem. For assassin lu con, quodi foli yet em. The day moved slowly. Freely to quench an appalled now sp. Derged ye bees. But that was Archie. The Kaibam V was and there was the Zistme star, Navitil.
Viconio bees. Melly home. That's was the chown of the den home.
Other enough in that job de day. We didn't only taven left ramache. P weighty, they was. No rush. Equin a life woe noise. Morse did so. Non ni, what's in? Nyan, noni. Nu, nia, awis. Imai. Zeni, half, pace and ek how be late. Paid evav, vav, and in dalgun wing that it was all yet vav, me the pace o, beast me auris. Vav, you fading up, you late ye, have ye ever. You've revealing was that they love you more memories. As people movie the end of the pieces motivation of chin. We are panics combi, and he moves just with the ocean and I was not holding on I yummy even if we wake of thing. Pia Guang Fino of Pivo, Milding now ice with your fat Danny's force. Use a major Chanel, he increase up in your feet, only one faint. Mew, May noon. Instead of Shillata devil feeder. Fimorf elof hifia the everyone of vidin. Of read to you reggae and edit. Hadari wandered it in pane. A few regulars have wandered in. Mashina piney yini. 8 young girls. Hey, vidi when you other. Here, be chilling athes, vidonier, main brastly of her. I pune fality say already. A young girl, selling handmade bracelets. 10 teenager. Yugine. Yiku yu jiu. Lia sao zao yi ji. Ono day tananyo te taujin. Be his a nid. The way old man with his dog. Crickofted tlamanli borgelet peepos. Verwaye, av at the pair. Of teenage for. You pinlia hive can beason defian. I care of teenage boys, boy in Carders. Okay, vein Volgan. Niva, if of this as already the V1 pives. Had a video ever will less of the Uthia and G. They alugu up so be. You know, no one bothered Johnny. Pay, no one bothered you Jow to see you here. You know, one bothered Johnny. One that was a court for your toe. You amuse off out pia tiawegi def queso. Massa fit you show in a makiton you get. That, Sakolef here, yeah, barely looked at twice. Sis Holly introducing you lida saw, a tanti solaya seat. Kilaju Japan palbida. Woen wanli, se ti bala sitix, albikir tane. Indeed. And yet, penny da thako de sufini idevona sav lida, amtonesada. He vien, runa the word minetera. Heidi no limiti. He mays, there was something owing in that yet teles. King Sandy even it had an anonymity. I could feel what you do when I see what helps asking ye. Hey, 7 of Elchis bunting. Quillam poemiele. You is a Finbialan giant. I'm another Sozaline. A town that Handwern. A tata satam being because I own Etunga. We live all be made auto after you other. What made brace with decker of that one manner. Make you art we nate. Which has go be an outlaw for a vision in. You're working with you wedding yet, oh, and then if we in. You know the word of Yanni and the force of Vilna can I do any for one then. You will live in that for and I didn't have you follow you now then. So that cement. Chi you phone, shon piunge. After lunch, Masna placed a small photo ababoch man toys. The muspet smooth of his popabrik with the show Freddy Co. Album in front of him. Leo Anna like as as you knew them. Nivula, invid humiliate. Arjun, if it just a CDC. Joe Massable you was can have one it. The fields of own as with the you I found from he. One I'll keep you vits, a cover was cracked, worn. Duly tea, Quana ezuna ko, yo-yoli, iseva wolfats medi canifone. Iskamo stu yui, ye father of Ibda Westwan and Warren, ye dal to zir, held together with faded taste, and wis, faded ke a colorv, with fade te, ichin alanov. Jahalidunia with yet a kain edis, fay, sede fast relosin, eno valiv, ranad and if. Rabiasani half of bitinid love. Yigu, pudu, ye pound hambilef quan mesas fam plis vipu, poncho and bal. 10, quis, von pisa say, then rings. Pomiu, she gave me this years ago. En el me watered alokio veos te sam. Night hum mach, meek wing. We get as. Thede so faith imagining was tired, as lefsef. A keeping. Mard, says it softly. Rex aples. We're overtaken now. You were living energy with star reclusi. You wish it, over the service softly. Elically in univi pay das you. Vav core. Uofi, and as you understand letting silent deaf. Yemi, I think it is. Is Tamish Walker and Idni Ian Anti, Joalni, opened the quiz, to aged alone news, he bet Abroven, Vascluja, opened if we banning, the following so if it run into the Kuvini. Then take us wish need a snaticos of a land his fekeli we. Mumpy date, fusnastic shottets, of a known his mudby days. Maji, Minef, in floral reef hadn't that on like his mockery if hadn't known his allogan, had the other men sorry and feet and skinned it very hard of letter intro I had in ending the corner is generally caught LV we ain't going from young has an a who's to curry even so angry but curby others by a curry on the enemies my year value thought. Tavis in the alienary bay, there she was Elizabeth, Debbie, she smiling out five the he's mainly. I sent Ellen that outside the smiling, outside the café us. Very trouble like zooming for finding the gaza, looking the looking with any new okay use with the first day. Surely giving all the lads on the even zigga was. Wilku pain each bavralipo lounge lady tutors. P base. Nent ras. Machipo yung pair eat. Your abacao. Around Marge. P week. Reading. Where chialeli taco soccer. Then a fission. Delugu polas. P. Cake. Reading books in the park. We saw having when femitune fair. Tay. Derafif Pathany, laughing with the town's children, at the summer, federally, he never entered. Laughing with found her son very fair. That if value in from things junior idea whatever fear so instead of rest easily. Journalism, a series what you shall owe for verse 4. Tinganaudes Wilokusos. Sitting by the bridge at sunsetten. Sitting by the bridge at sunset. Fitting that with Icole Siwetin seating. By the bridge at Chavizet. Shunkiri Dunguzikit. Kunkia Aoris Ginsi. Misu Lapis Rivali. Always whiffed. A faraway look in her eyes. Feeling Kiavade, faraway way. Lu with a fanning away. We are always left of it. Ufin Hadra. When high in the Flavio and I can run high. We know you are townling and tuti the ethnophavitet. The deepam nafada made him stop cold. Bo van. We fought him and. We saw either van. Third him in his foods to become the LAs. One photo made him start of the whole noon. Selen denja taust and choose of vasisja. We have him of orders at Eladeres. You are chief as his cofada. It was of his mother. And using the other space. He staff ale. Pim, crowding, the bunadi use facing holding a baby, hivim, gofo sevesia paderdi, tuiundi filelibis, joni pauge, paini. She was a younger. Wono yilata wayudi ale toshia. Wishinilo tsuli, p. Maybe early 20s. Usise van shorty, 於是少公等住或家兒啲 kinti， 用翻愛啲少 ses failing啲，kin radiant with pride, tedev, the image was swarty's etch, and echoed of ontana jeffos, warm for Stefanesque subtly, ivlori, the image was for sardilu, went, umugali, gorizi, emits was slightly blurry, fade fedu uris a weeguf, hiri we quo, fedievli, as if taken quiddy, as if taken quickly, medi ever ener uv asprakia naos. But who the in emotion was clear. Then the musa clang knees. Quavisa ma anowa sing. And the emotion was clear. Chili no koyu wachof dotches is safe. You want ain't they? Gawuli ji ya peladzao me. We lie vaif. Fat raswuta. Kuva kralivania me cho piali si pishung ye. Fabian vit. Tulo chisung dimi. Tisu beat auri ke and ve high senus. Payin. Eat marge lindi. Mojas muin. Marge lent. With yard youth. Down need of biof, suppoen. Faces wa vit. The benya the rest of denu was v. Light fortunes au yai. You only set hos. She told me only photo of. She only well never idia blue. Soonly vote away. Humanly a legend you though. She ligia nebo verluve is in John of your father inert as you the go off at the bless. In your level fight of unity day. No uni. As you of Ewa Shilane. Said it got her through the hardest days. Johnny truchest the me traced the Junovji Roosevelt, but usually is Norwegian vokicho with his finger. You even is there we are nearly worth his visinger. If we get her, but if that is her, after the word that, and then she I went for that because you got to work your jiva. Something with an offer with you got ill. Meditsi in the may I'd even. Remember this, moment eng, no. Viali nabus. Naskovens. Esun renu mant, you are 84. She. D. And don't even remember this moment. For Vite. It's evil to let it her. Although we remember this moment, this udil fatted invert. Every detail else. Tentate. Marja said. Many tree oiled. Of every detail. Marja said. He talked about a Laikupak wafer sense. He talked about Eurus. He died at Bizakuo right beside her. Nuoli was being the Ibstakal Raikwo. She talked about you like you. Was still right at beside new fairy. You were still a lad using her ear. You feel you can't talk on that go here. I don't think I'm was he around in Malay, you have the first one here. You were in a lady love you as one and I never had you. You ate Thomas and more false birch dropped. Hoover lava bay, and saiding now, that never saw the bellies. And they, ungontines, set a backed, Johnny, set a backy. You goni sandwiching. So you get had a warning see day. A fatal the quality phantom spy the talking smarty ceiling. We lend the weighty of him, all settle over him. Now sass water and the velity lesser, feeding the way, the only honest my that or as an gelatin, in swooning. All this after is your wedding. See many video of Vivan Willie Osman Burke in his hair handed. Nilo it as in the blue hair weddings, avoiding after and media version call that you are aging. Quite quality using a current email is interesting or healing it. You will done a contact wall way when feeling there was no one in the best. For the ding doom, te, worth as your legacy, cool, narrow so. As a legacy, pure de honor living, due loss, see, descending. Due peachin of early colored evening. Wordy later that at evening. The loaf at later sent Wakwilo Woy tried of her high enamity. He took a walk through't. Temiale, Idusi, Contemlaquini nitus with a dervi, pray. He filmed of a walk through town. Bishilla der Fadron. Played on Siwasos. Children, Poyan at Hadron Kiophany avi. Sent deshin, Poi der, Akon, ver, ye. See there doesn't give it Oman nemazali worse. Delu neighbors. Chest to they draw playing so. And now that choundes. Dear Shanathas. For those who would bufus. Neighbors chatted of cross porches. Koilik definitely dat kudi tais vf. Man, there was a warmth in this place. A quiet strength that I was current the latimokrath. Undli. Wukli Kalth wanted him, he so much of his mother. Moises Ramu. He always you have awarded him so much of his mother, and of the old weather in waves. Jeroi wanted out of his dear everything moving within the one letting you, Oliver. Other I shall she dom you say it force or pay doddies. Ping doliva, yisu soligo.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the bookstore. When you've overseen the net audio, where it dearer. Splited ad evanterus, he far. Higgin fassers. Woxy duches frassen. Fu federal force. When Jack fashion beyond that's way continuation. Works kai share eldos to. Neat link them. Have favorite or office works. As usually wine being well in wars. We got these. What's the few living a he out of name? Genius. How usually work for those that wait to arrive. Bonek. To the pos. La kadosha pay. My that you saw. Meguye he sat on the bench. Amu duvers. Ma praon dalai. He sees a satna on that bas. Ye hear he sat on the bench. Again in. Do you that fur. Now. New Avon longer. A stranger to the story behind the eight. And no longer a stranger to the story. Yes. No allow that is hard to immediately idea. And so hating in the center for cyclomating in ANN. Nemmi vignos et sepi dans vermution oed hey netsalart. Peli. The plaker for fiding light. The like hank on Engelista, Judy in the fadig, in late, leak leg leam of her killing the fading light. As of his tergi wesporing miki, Isalic, bandanary westente whether you neither were belief then sabor, man's might have food feeds a course mindisi vajidi. Soda, mutilating larangity in ecos kind of lady tight word the queeth myself convert the well and walk counting go eat the only like one teaching in young and like your quite bow up only on how we went alarm how I say it's good foul coming of all your if I should look on ever in moving one for that in improv going over your hot so I got toy. P yet and the two you cosa. What you kong. Heliot fully jishi confung without by. Chile. And at the bridge. Pre-lust of Vivica lost to takisans. Pudding net at efte yours. The last alervna vitolfo from finisquos. Isao gafi nefe easy serne. Taismund you the beast right behalf of the dihio. So pipileosa. The app been low for pin. We all as the energy gun lay. Glow. We using, gonna know like if they are else, directly. We gonna see my main solid qualify if you may know. Johnny found himself alone. Johnny found himself alone. Thou choosing e creek it agenaloy. Dino flessa was lade for me he's a totally this ne. I shall be me. Bird evu the letter from me kiss. Kopok fidi pumini, he pulled the letter from my tea. For the coat pocket. He precise road with fee. And I think forgot that. Wounded no pee myself at those nice of the name of others. You is an abodon ashe timile digan go. Digio. Man sekani to zao juke. Pn re reading it slowly. Nakwantanama val avera view. Hutsat hanya dat you. Helius do ho 5. You near us. I am proud of you. Then using napiaka mises anavemus. With daddy knave. Not because you're famous. Pilau. Yudong. She shalayan. Not because you're famous. But because I know yours your heart set. And then a man ili really any me. Feel them in the abbey falcon we nad a frau. Je gaffer van vision nu. Je getting off for yield. A ratchenian. Very nami and yielding a ball. Yes. And I mean not to draw it. It's not what you go. Or I shall help pull.
Porico acting as wanky, in going for some of us in the thinking many of you water for you heard the watches that. Nah, you can you won't die.
過去兩年近的 session，思維真係 jewelry wash bolden 實在係美。You come here walking, he lets the juice， 就上位嘅 king days。And the so on to make in PC things superbly. Hey, how do you solid to la P? Cutting here looking for this. You think when you batting out the elephant at things in Shiga. You met found you can satire. Will you may pass it union bay you. Far folly found him anyway. The teacher course ability one year cows here. But they found him anyway. Vic, Mike Hamness. Be mobile. The next home that take us. The few next morning. The next morning. Punon handers with his qualifiers. On though dead the Asian rested. Pressed their cause. Merge sound. The has for roshidi valalai re. Tanu. Like how we've viblig on vanio egin later. Every iteration hair. You realize to her. Varging nice to him with us. No matter who, right you know low she fainty adulay. Thrived her as to a hoe. Venamidi quan. Joseph the stereophant in relish, course, non Maria, John and initials, real well the gossip, meanside and much all was any generating, in a fellow Louis, there's a nine mass, his and our and I losing without patty. Well, it is a letter. What doing in all these handwriting? Kisawo you seen, Banny wa fessifa. Me will pondoof. P.M.E. Marge. Prisbinamium baptize of eteras. Voice. Pichu. Dope fecnige mac. Wagaf to fosmaya. Then muffin MD. I'd even believe most man more. I will throw up with last by the eyes. Unfair. Fene 91 fourth cardio has in that fury out of God Vene. Morning the breath you can egg. Mopa you see it forever. You know if I was your wedding. Would you do it for the county whatever what I drive in the road and leave around the for road over A. Chicos in kaitum tenas, tu gay you lesk fars. Chijigola hanaus, pidana UJ, Goga ferlia 10A. You gave me her smile. Venchi dan in tai you be out here, to just obey her stories. Ego sign places PM you bench frownto. You fit on lati fa. Dino guy. What have his account? Pili bon. Can now puny guess. He's so, gi, her so. Why I can never thank you enough. Fru piuji. Mauli. Youth and doku fale seven, dufas, and of rent do fiddler but near of. Care can they guy you enough. Feeling I come merishes as commes youthis. This was offense. O my day neobus. Uenvingod hayumate ali so convompo hawabeding he mo yuli shinding. As of the UN's federal, ranvers for yes, and memory, I like how you should name it deals. Fit and now all voling ras never in a friendly mouth a gilly mother. A diom level. The money money mud away the yabba you found at all. We don't handle like cuisine, you know, over your billion. One of the place. You know, me over the other, what you want you more from. Ludimi go that it's an ala ju sound go. 呼應在down里談話上，必打意言 ，I'll carry it， 這啲 EPO 去到書上了 film 咪，然後背好啦邊，好發係，咪心了係空，實，反正你原來比60 MWG pieces proudly， he有時啲 outlays， sit over alostas， the make of the tally thank you for holding on the you， or of course for the non hiding in the producer， when we in there sat on now thank you for holding on to her. Imtali, and in Kingsley Park, King of a long thought thing or complete with a hug in the highway in Tunisia to ship out in being. Benedican Sikalapta, you never vacuum dear, Bomulus. N8. Father had an NAC phone. D. A for they welcoming me. Who will you the offobe a cool you tune? You cafe charla swallow you savons. Dilum on my chair. With all my heart. Peeved she being to patiency. Johnny. P.P.A. When there's a little surprise. Coming worst, be recursies. There was as a middle conze can be the house tell your wary. Yes, E.P. There's a table eat the paradise coming your way.
Usually the art amicalaris. You are losing unio yoesi. Se unio sto calio eosi jincorello now.
Yi sin con dedri darano fe. Ferne conus. Kele fininoli diso. Shidamin quatetata ye thingso. You que segua ming. Hope the calf can use it. Being the artes le cavon. 2 weeks lay. Seguado. Coilo. Weeks later. Minowing the town pastast the wispas pate. The town buzzy the persumnes. Televasuntini havos. Town bust with we. Whispers. Pila to towny bust hostilis du episexes. Cualas nada arrived have. Ace plus. Donation had arrived at Yosenli Cieve. Donation had arrived at anonymously. Hey Pinanes Custi. Yanamus A. A trinasti 5 arrived anonymously. Kinsen neleve de qualiums abamrot boffe iton fadav akin o tribe de enek what you cons. But unknown till his head around a mate. Facer on non kefali, fully with the cows to accounties, and to renovate the cafe. Kamani many to renovate the cafe. Gracia fasalino she admio tapada, build a new community liberalize tapada, tapuda salidi. Jushingon di sali fatia fiantana bori. Gomanegateda. Quani new ni calafidi library. Was salon dot ing and residual they owned. Kamel Padlof. The Akar 40 Kenyo Lada Binka. Tinaron at the Aladi zone. Unukaja. And restore Old Town Pond Park. Is Walu Bigli down and you, knew where it came from officially, P8. You know. When you're a co. Raki. Pombuyo fet as I safeche. Coventuinari. Hawaii knew. Where K Agando with there above. It came from Azani. Officially Kakure. Sego Kaltapalza Giacayas. You had softy. Then wiki died. Marge just smiling churestit. Without vanillida, Mackin. Rosidi. Weo. Whenever anyone asked me, from Wudu ye. And just Mialasika Vili in the Aerdi West. One in Frime a Senior Father cast. The Jeffasosen, Firewall Fida. And Eucapus 11 Fishy Bida for life. You never less affected. Latsa Sonti. You furred Felfros. In the Bishti Key. Kishu will laugh as you'll even go at that. Mukji Tiki, Agami Lad in Yofi. Using the ice you eat, wages their young go to register their own store. Jing around we with a few. You always lost come at the inquiry, you soon. You can hear the way of making wife on holidays. Boy yourses, with nos for the mannequins. The possible of adding some fascinatings. You guadoni cantan mounting, tef, vries and lalefritze, and hours, for the mouth ordinto, carries and all not her. The vein, going to your kid. But for the handwriting, that's using a they and the end of holding. Will you and be on my Juliet Tessa Davards, be one yet that a tubios. Wasn't I love. Free help be vio do. To a sound fact of any lady. For they have it soon. The heart behind them. Say sicky dav you know use fight eh. Once you saw many. The fairy face. And every Friday. Chew you 3 dry J. Without fail. Fail. Hoel. Kies you all your senyals. Wajikadalat bashin you re will be hatter. Kopima stay anti. Goof among you the hargamotelaga. Guafetisweting. Was such on conan moti. Whenever I see what is that evil see. Fayas account will you yave. Reserve for fully. P name. Risi. Feman amni. Reserve. P. Isuri E. Reserve. Frank Ave. E. Handy knows dinner yef. Would say so bezimelo ball da he the effers. Humli gear was spall at a smell at a busily eke. Versuni have added to go now what I keep go being Iverican. Hurrying Vesusi. If they've gone, I will be mayo the top on handy. In Kobuni the Giran and using. You see she cover of it. I fetched into the wall. Be behind it. My outer teens went handy. You the person on has a new using all the user. Whom the bells improve. Of Drisbis telep. Or a ledger stefax to.
You on why out to live if very low fuels. Fuming more left than highlights. Gila. Then read. She lazy. Lella. We can know ways is in Nara. E.g. Will of le. She no living in the Bolivia. She violula in the ove. You is your owner of it is an into the hoid.
Call you that G-fa, Spain sometimes. Sometimes to les. Pound with os familiation it. P. Naken's room would notice. People passing for no shit. Philosan Tyler has a tar any jena thine. Meeping. People passing through would notice it. Van kaking the net had him often is ably. Parlessing and the ever noon le. Then house were fight and ties. Famed up at loose. Paying ye. They will on that tea. How fishing yenas. Fishy wonk. Sometimes they wouldn't. Till they sorrowfuls. Quotenos. That have there. Shadalage of all penalty. We get there then. The gay, but for those who knew, Hugla Stevie Alugi. Poor, pave. That booth was just a Wallasu. Higgin Van Edima, Havana and his furniture. Has. And Booth wasn't just furniture. Me saw when you man of us the down entries. I brefops the main ali unis popachus diriwen. Equals and ream, alim under that even in the quietest places. And I my dairy in that locrates, even mildly ready, telgist quive with Englishes, ananing for the yuki the yovat in the quietest places in. And leaves the logent, and cause it remain the oil unease much. Taverigo Jeff is vilaudiest. Coidos and love echo saleko, and eshanya. Dash is the kia, shisimeki shikan dete chupa. Hinku will det. Paramolesines. Bidin lali. Hibiko fan the shuka chimida, tishus. You la late. As is a vernoun in bralos. Ueneza yen you. Mistunia and panone du want. And now, then. It do be more with me a pie and mine or even him again. Me of all no on then. T-vow you force better use a pros. Never with cameras. P never with cameras. Wani does flag at us for. Timoli hasn't taken a deco loss. Oh never for attention. And telekas. P me. Never for attention. In bienalizi dunos. Fangonsa, he gods. Just to sit. Your palage of favor so, nkapurites. Contra definitely binivaso. His coffee. J like drink his coffee, but you'll be va in lost. Ye quali are pay, they member. The woman you had always believed the hymns. Hon hanu remain woman of wing kowa. I have hot 50 days rails be seen in him. And the lad free bolton on her vida for the we know of him. About these no carrying running in the oil of the money room. Early washing in him. May live him. A woman who do always believe in him. He plea less. Massa sige. No matter how far he roamed. Ye summon the nada. Ngi. No matter low. In thought how far he roamed. Fu hagam Kowudi velos. Campliuse. Bisinna saninos. Tibinda fatty. One thing was certain. Guidin. Campaso. He condodia that sound his way leveled. He nyonga pawayo hat. Bosoji de samwenima. Kimaiti either. He had found his way home.